Hi everyone, I'm the plant propagator and welcome to my channel. Today I'm in the laboratory in Southwest Florida and I want to share with you some additional information on orchid deflasking. I've shared a lot of videos with you previously, but the more that I do it, the more detail that I learn that I need to share with people. I've watched a few online videos, YouTube videos of other people showing deflasking, and I watch them, and when the presenter's doing certain things, I'm kind of wincing, gritting my teeth, going, it's really not what they want to be, what you should be doing. And what I want to do is just provide a little bit more information and a little bit more detail. I'm not going to cover the things that I've covered in my many of my other deflasking videos, but I'm going to emphasize a few things a little bit differently. I've done a lot of, I've deflasked 5 bins today. Not really going to take a look too much at them, but I've got, there's a lot of plants been on it, and I thought I would just do one more and share with you how I'm doing these things and what the little bit of difference is, different things. And at the end, I also want to share with you what my deflasked orchids look like after a month and a couple of months. And what I'm going to share with you, I'll get behind the camera, and what I'll share with you is the striking growth and what type of growth. As I do more of this, my standards, I think, have gone up a little bit. It used to be that I would only look for, plants that are alive. And then I started looking for really vigorous root growth. And now what I'm starting to see is pseudobulb elongation, additional pseudobulb growth, lots of growth really quickly in the deflasked orchids. And I just want to share some of those with you because to me it's kind of striking, and I want to share with you what I have so that you can look for those in your deflasked orchids. Before I get into deflasking of this one flask that I have, I also wanted to share with you that I am teaching a orchids from seed class locally. So right now I'm in the laboratory. The laboratory is located, it's a Florida Gulf Coast University facility in Naples, and it's associated with the Naples Botanical Garden. Next week I'm teaching a growing orchids from seed class, and I went and I looked. They told me that there's hardly any registrants for the class. So if you're local, if you're in Southwest Florida, and you're interested in visiting me and seeing flasks and deflasking in person, I'll provide the information. You go to the FGCU, Florida Gulf Coast University Learning Academy, and you go to the gardening, you select a class, you enroll for a class, and you go to the garden. It's in the gardening area. I don't know, it's not science, it's gardening. And then you can register for the class. It's coming up very, very quickly. So if you want to, I'll provide some information and then you can sign up and take the class. There is a $35 cost associated with that. They apparently didn't do any advertising because with a number of people that are signed up, right now at least, I'm not going to teach it. So if we get a few more people that sign up for it, I'll teach the class. All right, so anyway, moving on to the deflasking here of this flask. This is one of my hybrids that I've had in the laboratory for a while, and I'm starting to get a little bit of browning on some of the leaves, and it's not an indicator of any kind of fungus problem or anything like that, but it's an indicator that these guys want out. The amount of root growth on here is pretty high, and they just need to come out. This is a Momolani Rainbow Cross, which is, if you've watched me, you've seen that it's one of my oldest. Actually, it is my oldest orchid, and it's one of my favorite ones to cross with. Really vigorous, fragrant, and I crossed this with a really large, my largest, also pink orchid. So what I'm hoping for is a large pink, vigorous, fragrant with a little bit of flaring in the petals, but we'll see what comes out of that. Okay, so what you do on this when you deflask, the main thing that I want to emphasize is how delicate the roots are in orchids in general, but especially in the deflasked plants. So what I'll do is I'll open up this flask, and I'm right in front of the sink here. So I'll open, if I can get it open, I'll open up this flask, and then I pull out, and they come right out. I'll pull out these, this is the mass of orchids here. I will then shake off the medium, a little bit. The medium is, but not much. I don't want to damage the roots too much. You can't tell, there's a garbage can below here. But I'm pulling off delicately, because I don't want to damage the roots. I'm pulling off a little bit of the medium. I'll then turn on the water, and I like to do this with a little bit with warm water. What I'm going to do is let me reposition so you can get a better look at this. Okay, so we're back, and what I like to do is I like to rinse out the container here, and once I clean up the orchids and tease them apart, they're very delicate. They're right here, by the way, and what I'll do is I'll put them in this container in the sink here, just so they stay under very high humidity conditions, and they'll be in good shape. But what I like to do is, let me get a little bit more water, and again, it's just kind of lukewarm water, but I very delicately get rid of as much of the charcoal containing medium as I can. But look at what I want you to see is the massive roots and what's holding everything together here. So this is there's a lot of roots here. This is and what you have to do is tease this apart without destroying the roots. What I've seen people do is try to pick the roots apart, and they do a lot of damage to the roots here. But the best way to do this, and I'm going to have to put this down here, the best way to do this, like for example with this group, is just to kind of, and sometimes you can't get them apart, and if you can't get them apart, that's it. That's tough. So here's one right here, small one, not great. And then here's another small group right here, and this one, I don't know if you can tell, that one found its way into the trash. But these will come apart. So it ends up being, these plants are not really huge, but let's go back to this. But the way to do this is to just tease these things apart from you don't really work the roots. You can kind of tease them apart into smaller and smaller clusters. So there's the plant right there and they do kind of, if you have the right conditions, they fall apart. So you just kind of, this is a borderline save right here. It's a big one right here. All right. But what I do is just tease the plants apart. But you just have to be careful. But you tease them apart from the top. So you kind of wiggle them. You pull them apart a little bit, and you really won't damage them at all. There are a lot of small plants in here that I am just not gonna mess with. That's the other thing that I found out, is that the small plants you know, you pay a lot of money or not for these flasks, and you want to keep everything. So you've got a lot of small ones here, and what I found out is it's just not worth it. They just struggle, and so it's not worth it. So, and because I have so many flasks of this, I'm just not going to really mess with the really small plants here. You know, this is a nice size plant, but these guys, you just kind of pull them apart from the top, and again, minimal damage to the roots. And I've got way too many. I don't want all these. I don't want all these plants. Oh my gosh. All right. Anyway, but here's a nice one right here that I want. So I'll kind of I'll get this at the top and kind of tease it, and then they just they fall apart. Okay, but you have to work it. Here's another nice one right here, and then you grab it right here, and they just kind of fall apart. There is a little bit of, you can't tell from really where you are, and from what you're listening to, they are stuck together a little bit. So you kind of have to keep on working back and forth and work it and see what you get out of it. Sometimes, you know, things do get a little stuck together. Big plant, bad leaf, but there's so many. I mean, I'll show you the plants that are left over at the end that I'm just not going to flask, because this is a hybrid that I have a few of, and I'm not sure I want to mess with all of these plants. And it's late in the day, and I've already done so many. I'm not sure I want to deal with too many more of them. Okay. So, these are the ones I'm going to keep, and I think there's probably around 20 of them here. And it's a shame, but I just, you know, I'm not sure I want to. Somebody, you know, in my early on in my orchid flasking days, I would have thought, wow, these are great, and I'm happy to keep, you know, all of these. But you know, anymore, I just don't. I don't think it's worth it for me to, even though there's a lot of them and they look good. Well, I might make up a compost. I hate doing that. I really, really do. The other thing is I have had a lot of people tell me that they make up composts, that they'll take the whole. I keep on dropping these. There's so many of them. I've had people tell me that they actually take rather than tearing them apart, what I did here, they'll take them and they'll shove them in a community pot. And I just don't like doing that at all, because what happens in that community pot is they get bigger, and then you got to tear them apart anyway. And it's worse to take the plants when they're larger and separate them than it is to separate them when they're small and they come apart as easily as they do right here. You'll do a lot of damage later on. And so I don't like making compots. Yeah, it's easier when you're first deflasking them, but it is it just, you know, I don't think the orchids benefit from doing that. Okay, so I'm not sure what I'm going to do with all these, but I'll pot all of these guys up. The way to pot them up, and I'm just going to do that just really fast, really quickly here. Because again, I've shared all this with you previously. I have pre-moistened orchiata bark in this container here, and so what I'll do, and these are 2-inch pots that I'm using, and what I'll do. See, what's the best way? I'm not sure. Can I do this? Yeah, maybe I can. All right. So I've got these 2-inch pots, and these are new pots. Sometimes I have used pots, and what I'll do is I'll bleach treat the used pots. But the way that I do this is I grab a plant. I also, in one of the other videos, I saw say, well, you always want to put something in the bottom of the pot, and I never do this. Oftentimes the root system is so extensive, if you put some bark or potting mix or styrofoam or whatever in the bottom of the pot, there isn't enough room for the root system. So I never do that. So I essentially hold it in place, and then I throw the orchiata bark in. And again, this is pre-moistened orchiata bark. One of the things that's the most critical thing for me is the positioning of the orchid in here, and that's more the level than anything else. So you want to have this thing sitting at just the right level so that you can see when the roots grow out of this right here in the pot. And I'll show you what this looks like as we move on. So I'm just going to pot a few up, and then we'll take a look at there's a baby that wanted to, but anyway, it's not gonna join this one. So again, I hold this in the middle, and I add the orchiata bark, and I go up and down, and again, the main thing is to get this plant positioned at just the right level so that you can see the roots when they grow out of the base of the pseudobulb. So I'm gonna do just a couple more, I think, and then we'll move on. Okay, so what I'm going to do is pot these up, show you how I treat the plants after I pot them off. What you can't see is where I was putting them. They're right here. I'll show you how I treat those things, and then we'll take a look at what these plants will look like 1 month and 2 months after deflasking. Okay, and so I potted up not all of them because I'm a little tired because I've been doing this for a few hours today. So all I did, I only got, how many, 15 orchids out of that flask. There were probably around 10 or 20 left over. They're small, and I just didn't feel like messing with them. So these are the orchids in the 2-inch pots. And then what I'm doing is following up, and I water each plant. What this does is it settles the orchiata around the roots of these plants. I wash a little bit of the orchiata off of the leaves as well. So just hit them pretty good with the water, and you see it kind of drains out the bottom. And I'll put the top on this container, and then it goes in the and I mark them, I label the container as far as what the deflasking date. So here's another one, here's another tub that I did, and there are, looks like 30 in here from another flask that I had, but I saved most of them from this one. So these are I'll water these the same way, and then put them underneath the LED grow lights in the laboratory. And as I've showed you previously, I take all the excess water out and put new water in weekly. I'll do also a weekly fertilizer. In a few weeks, I'll also treat them with a fungus. With a mycorrhizal fungus preparation. It seems to be doing pretty well, and we'll take a look at some of the plants that I've treated previously. Okay, so these are the ones that I did today right here, and let's take a look in the culture room, and I'll show you some after different amounts of time and what they look like. Okay, and we're back. So these were done. This is Encyclia tampensis. And these were really big old plants in flasks when I deflasked them about a month ago. What I want you to look at, though, is the roots at the base of this plant. the base of these plants and how some of them are growing. So you go through, you don't have them in all of them, but I think, you know, in that one right there, you can see a lot of roots coming out of the base of the plant. Again, not all of them, maybe some right there. That one is just, that's remarkable. And you're not going to see this, like I said, in each plant, but you're going to see it in, you know, in a lot of them, and that's the indicator that they're doing well. All right, so and this is a month after deflasking. You should be able to see again the good root growth. The pseudobulbs and the huge pseudobulbs that's on some of these, the base of some of these plants, it's because these are just old. They got left in the flask just way too long. But you can get an idea of what these plants look like after a month. Actually, it's not quite a month ago. All right, this is a Cattleya hybrid right here. And I actually deflasked some more of these today, but this was about a month ago. And what you can see as you go, I mean, look at the phenomenal root growth, that one and that one. And as you go through there, you can see that, and that's what you look for. Occasionally what you see is good new pseudobulb production in these guys. So you may, I mean, this plant right here is just, this is a monster right here, and this is doing well. But on some of these guys, you can see the even the new pseudobulbs that are coming out starting to come out after a month, which is really striking and really remarkable. But look at the root growth on these things. Again, if you plant these things at just the right level, you don't plant them at the right level, the roots will come out at about the level of the Orchiata, and it just goes along the surface. And again, it's a sign and an indicator. Look at the new pseudobulbs growing out of that plant. But it's a sign and an indicator that the plants are doing well under these conditions. Okay, one last thing. We're going to take a look at a few more tubs with orchids, and these I think are going to be just maybe a week older than this, to give you again another indicator of how these things should look over time. Okay, last two trays that we're going to look at right here. This is also one that I deflasked today. I think it was my last flask today that I have of this one. I didn't get a whole lot of plants from this hybrid, but what you can see when you look at it, and we'll start out, you know, we'll look at a small one right here. You can see the roots that are growing out of the base of this plant. But you know, look at over here. You may not be able to tell it that well, but there's a new pseudobulb growing out of this. This is a little over sorry about the focus, a little bit over a month after deflasking. And so what you can see on some of these is the really nice root growth. But look at, that's a new pseudobulb that's growing out of this plant right there. There may be a new pseudobulb growing out of that one, just really quickly. But these plants started out big. Finally, I've got another hybrid right here that is, again, it was deflasked the same day as that last flask that I showed you. And you can take a look, and these were big plants, but you can take a look at the root systems that are growing out of these plants and how really spectacular they are, if the camera will focus for me. But again, as you take a look at these things, the root systems, look at that. That's a nice root system, and what you may or may not be able to see on these is you can see the roots, but there are also a lot of new pseudobulbs coming out of it, which is really kind of shocking and surprising to get that much fast growth out of these seedlings. The other thing to note on this, if you can tell, is the white residue that's on there, and that's the mycorrhizal fungus that I sprayed. Look, new pseudobulb. Yow! The mycorrhizal fungus that I sprayed on this, just a few weeks ago. It doesn't harm the plant. I think it's beneficial. I don't think it gives rise to this incredible growth that you're seeing. This is just typical of deflasked orchids. If the initial orchids are big and grown correctly, if you flask and get big orchids in flask, these things will just do really well when you deflask. The mycorrhizal fungus, I think I applied it on here. You can see some of the white on the leaves. This is something that's more long-term, that I hope that after I take these out in another month, take them outside, put them in my nursery, that I'll get better long-term survival. All right, that's all I have for today. I hope you enjoyed my video. If you did and you want to keep on seeing them, it would help me out if you can click on like, share, and subscribe to my channel if you're not already a subscriber. All right, I hope you enjoyed it, and happy propagating.